Another great board on the street, great musician, producer, songwriter, entrepreneur. He's a leader. He's also going to be a political leader. He doesn't know that yet. But hey, man, it is none other than the amazing Kentucky Dom. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, my brother. Thanks for having me. Thanks for
Oh
the
man.
introduction, man. I need to make you my hype man at my shows.
Hey! You know, I've heard that before. I've heard that before, and but you know what? It's easy when it's true, and it is true. I was so impressed when I came across you, man. I mean, gosh, you know, sharp young man and cowboy, and talking about America, giving no nonsense, and
Yes,
you can
sir.
speak to things that a lot of people can and cannot speak to. And I was just so impressed. I thought, oh my gosh, if there's ever a time that we need a patriotic, sharp leader, entrepreneur, and a handsome black cowboy, it's right now. And you know what? I'm just so proud of you, young man. You know, you've accomplished a lot of things in your life, but you're on a mission to bring people together, to
Yes,
call
sir.
things as though they are, and also have some fun along the way with your music and your message. Tell us about Kentucky Dom.
Yeah. So Kentucky Dom, I'm an entrepreneur, like you said, country music art. I guess you would call it a mix between country music, bluegrass, hip hop, pop. I kind of take all of the cultures and just blend them together because I feel like here in America, we're just a melting pot anyway. And so I've always felt like instead of trying to stay in a box, I'd rather just represent all of the genres as one genre, and I think that's what we need right now in America. That's kind of what my brand is. I'll tell you, if you got a quick minute, I'll tell you my name, Kentucky Dom. It came from, I had a customer of mine, and he was an old hillbilly from Kentucky, and he couldn't say he was. I mean, his accent was so hillbilly. I mean, backwoods. You can only imagine.
Yep.
And he couldn't say Dominique, which is my name, and so he would call me Dominicker because his dad raised Dominicker chickens, right?
Yeah.
And so he would be like, I can say that because I was raised saying Dominicker chickens. Well, obviously you see the roosters there. But
Uh
so fast forward to years later, I'm coming up with my stage name and all this. This guy's passed away. He died of cancer, but I
huh.
started, he was a real good friend of mine over the years. We became good buddies. And come to find out, Dominicker chickens, as I'm thinking of a logo and a name, Dominicker chickens are called Kentucky Doms.
Whoa. Okay.
Whoa.
Okay. Bing, bing. Hey, you know when it's right, man.
You know when it's right. So
You know.
everybody calls me Dom. I'm born in Kentucky,
Yeah, yeah.
and it only fits.
Well, you know, Quincy Jones, my friend Tim Miner, produced with Quincy Jones and Whitney Houston and Marcus, golly, that song he had the hit one and Brian McKnight, and of
Brian
course,
McKnight.
you know, Boys to Men and all that. But you know what? When he would put a song into the player in his limo, and by the time he got home, if he could remember it, it was a hook. It was a hit, and that's how songs are. You know that because you're a musician and a producer and a singer, and when it's right, it's right. And boy, when you heard Kentucky Dom, there you go. It was already written in the stars, shall we say, or Psalm 139, your life's already been written. And you know what?
Wow.
I'm just again, I was just so excited, man, to get to interview you. Tell us about your upbringing.
Yeah. So born in a small town called Henderson, Kentucky. Not a big town, but definitely has some diversity and culture in it. My mom raised lower income inner city family. My dad country boy. My dad's name's Country actually. So my dad, country family, parents grew up in the coal mines and farmers and so I always had a mixture of both cultures because my parents separated when I was younger. So I would spend time with my country family and I would spend time with my hood family is what
Uh
you'd
huh.
call it.
Uh huh.
And so I always just grew up with a diverse, and then I moved to Atlanta. And so moving to Atlanta, that really gave me a broader perspective on Black people and success and ideals and things like that. And so I took it back to home to Kentucky and it was like I just had a broader perspective on life and society
Right.
and how things work. So I was actually able to bring that city slicker mindset back home to Kentucky and just, be me, be who I was called to be. And
Right.
so, a lot of people don't really know this, but most black families are conservative. Our values, the way we think, the way we operate, the way we function as a family. I have
Right.
one of the largest black families in Western Kentucky, and so because of that, I was able to be molded into the person that I am today. My values have always been the same. It just took for the Lord to kind of bring it out and manifest and kind of teach me how to use it.
Well, and I'm glad that he did. Atlanta, some of the classiest people I've ever met are Atlanta. And
Amen.
so you got the best of both worlds too. It's interesting, going overseas, Egypt, Germany, other parts of the world, they all want to be cowboys. And I was intrigued by that. Then we talked the other day, I wore cowboy boots to Cairo because I needed a hard hill, if you know what I mean. And they called me Texas just because I wore cowboy boots. Um, Boy, I sure wish they made their stirrups Western on those. Yeah, when your boots too wide to fit in those little European men's
Yep.
stirrups,
Yep.
we'll just say it was an impactful ride on a Arabian stallion. But man, they want to be cowboys because friend Kyle Hooper said this on GLC, which I hope to get you on set there too. Is people associate the cowboy with justice. And you know what? God's using you, but he's using the cowboy now more than ever. A lot of people don't realize Smith Wigglesworth prophesied that the next great move in America will be through the cowboy. And I believe it, man. But the principles you've had and the best of both worlds, the hard working, work ethic, family, God, country. Cowboy literally means a caretaker of the animals. I don't know if you know
Right.
that or not. And appreciating the land, and of course the can-do spirit, the justice, and then of course the classy, entrepreneur background. You were made for such a time as this, man. And you've had wins under your belt. You've done a lot of great things already. But I'm really excited for what's happening now. Folks, go to KentuckyDom.com right now, and I'll also put a link on there as well. KentuckyDom.com. You got some cool music, and tell us about your music, man.
Yeah, man. So I started doing country music more for the service of the young people.
Yeah,
I feel like, these young people, they really didn't have good, wholesome, great, American songs to listen to. And so that was one of the reasons why I put together, hip hop and country music, because at the time, hip hop was still the number one genre.
yeah,
But when you go listen to hip hop, it's guns, it's violence, it's this and that. It wasn't fit for especially young people to be listening to with their minds being developed. And
right.
so I decided, like, man, look at all these little country hillbilly kids, riding around listening to all these hardcore drill Chicago gangster rappers. Like, it doesn't even resonate.
Right.
And so, I started playing around with some sounds, and then it started working out. And then my first song is called Big Old Truck. It actually went viral on YouTube and on Facebook. And I was like, oh man, I kind of got something here,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
And so that's whenever I knew we were getting ready to create a new culture, which was combining the country and the hip hop cultures and giving these kids something to listen to that they can actually understand, that it resonates with their lifestyle.
Well, you're not only doing that, but you're also steering them away from prison. A lot of people don't
Exactly.
realize the rap labels own the prisons too, folks. Did you know
Right.
that?
Oh yeah.
And so, I knew you knew that, but folks that are watching, put two and two together. Really, really, really pay attention to what your children are listening to. Hey, they're not your buddies; they're your kids, and you got to help steer them, in the way they should go. But that's another reason why I like you too, man. You got great music. I love the song about the truck. I think that was the first thing I looked up on YouTube, and I really enjoyed that.
Thanks.
But we're in a media war. We're in a cultural war. The leftists, the jihadists, those who target women and children, They want a race war so bad,
Right.
and they're very bitter because they lost so much of the black community recently, and you know, and they also lost the Latino community too. Latinos are not down for the LGBTQRSTUV lifestyle. You know, they may have machismo like the Chicanos that I grew up with, you know, but they don't go for that funny stuff, and they're also more conservative than others too, you know. But I think it's a beautiful thing because I mean, again, when I first saw you and I heard you speak and your music, I thought, my gosh, there's never been a better time for someone to speak to justice, speak to unity against racism, you know, speak to patriotism, not because you're a certain race, but because you love your family. And we all help build this country. And it's just an incredible thing. But I haven't met anybody like you in a while, you know, and I was just so impressed, man. You know, the best way to get behind you, though, is to buy your music, you know. I'm on your website right now, very family friendly website, very user friendly as well. And you also got merchandise too. You got some cool hats and some cool
Yes, sir.
shirts.
Yes, sir.
Man, I hope you got extra large, brother. You know, you know, and all that. But everything that you're doing is quality,
Yes,
and I
sir.
love that. I love that, and I just couldn't encourage people more, you know, to get behind Kentucky Dome. And of course, you know, we want to have you in West Texas, the
Oh yeah.
last bastion of American freedom, the richest, most patriotic part of the country is the
Right.
Permian Basin, West Texas. You know, Billy Bob Thornton knew that when he took on the acting job, and of course, Ty Sheridan. You know, he knows that as well with Yellowstone and stuff. But you know what, though? I wouldn't be surprised if you told me that your aspirations go beyond music and speaking as well. I wouldn't be surprised if you told me that you'd want to get involved in movies and cinema too, man.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We're actually working on some projects right now
Wow.
to get me into some film and things like that. So I don't really want to talk about it too much because I kind of want it to manifest and let God work it
Yeah,
all out.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
definitely into the acting thing. I'm that guy that used to stand in front of the mirror as a young guy and just make weird faces and act and you know, never been ashamed of being a creative, my friend.
Well, and a creative you are, you know. It seems like God is bringing people together from every background, you know, for such a time as this. And
Right.
you know, America is all about freedom, all about endeavors, launching new things, you know, taking risk. You know, I've been to places in the world, man, where you can't just start a business. You know, in Texas, you don't even need a license to start a business. You can start a business today, or
Right.
anyone actually can start a business today. But it's never been a better time to love your country. And I have to say, no matter how you swing in voting, hey folks, things are looking pretty good in terms of economics and freedom. And you know, it seems like every once in a while we have to undo the overregulation that pads so many pockets and favors everybody but the American citizen. And so, you know, use that freedom while you got it. You know, it's also important too to the people vote. You know, go to patriotsinaction.com, patriotsinaction.com, and it's a free platform, censor-free platform. Boy, I hope you don't mind, Kentucky Dom, if I put our interviews and encourage people to get your music on patriotsinaction.com. And but what would you say to people that they really need to do more than just share memes? If ever there was a time, perhaps to stand up, to speak up, to show up, it'd be now. What would you say?
Uh, I would say the first thing is go to church.
Ah, okay.
Same thing our sister Erica said, go to church. That's been the basis of my heart for a long time is you can't fight a war, a spiritual war without God. We need him on our team. We need him leading us. We need to be able to hear from him. How we speak, how we treat other people, how we conduct ourselves in tough situations. And so I would say go to church, spend more time with God, spend more time with your family, start doing things that matter, this spiritual war that we're at here in America. It's a serious battle, and for too long we've kind of sat back and got married and built our bigger barns and stored all of our goods in the bigger barns and drank our wine and just kind of got, I'll call it getting fat with the gospel. I think we got really fat with the gospel here in America.
Wow. Wow.
And here in America, we are the leading nation for Christianity, and so I think we kind of have to start being that. You go to these Islamic nations, and everything they do is surrounded their religion. And I think that here in America, there's so many Christians, and we've just kind of bowed down to the system. And I just don't think we have time to do that anymore. I think that we got to stand up, we got to lock arms, we got to come together. We got to. They say a family who prays together stays together. Well, Americans have to start praying together.
You speak on hot topics, and you're so right. It's one thing to be patriotic, but when you discover that our country was founded on Judeo-Christian values, founded on the very sermon notes from the Black Robes, those outlaw preachers, the Black Robe Regiment, as King George called them, put a hit out on them. And it was their sermon notes that these young men, not old men in white wigs, most of them were under 20. Did you know that, folks? That they gathered those sermon notes from the founding fathers, and the sermon notes from the Black Robes, and wrote our legislation, the first the Declaration of Independence, because for 20 years before then, these preachers who fought alongside their people, these warrior preachers, outlaw preachers, I love that. They didn't stay at home and pray about it. They fought along with the 3%, but they would say no king but Christ, and when you get that right, you get everything else right. Something else you get right is MALA, MALA, Make America Love Again. That's one of the
Yeah.
good topics you talked on. Tell us about MALA, man.
Man, it's simple, man. It's so simple. Love your neighbor like you love yourself, right? If we can
Right.
figure out how to love one another better, and I'm not talking about the rainbow love, I'm talking about agape love, I'm talking about God's love, where we can look at an individual, kind of like how Erica did, the man who assassinated her husband. She looked at that man, she looked in her heart and said, I have to forgive him. In order for me to be able to move on in my life and have peace, I have to forgive this man and love him right on into the gospel, right? We don't know what God's getting ready to do in this man's heart with that kind of forgiveness, but that is Mala. That is love your neighbor like you love yourself.
So important. And when you love your neighbor like you love yourself, it's hard to hate somebody that you pray for, which leads us to MAPA, make America pray again. What would you say about that, man?
Listen, man, that is our direct text to the Lord above.
Uh huh.
It
Uh-huh.
said the Bible says pray about everything, right? We wake up in the morning, pray. You get into a dispute, pray. You have financial problems at home, pray. You're having marital issues, pray. Your son and your daughter, they've turned into prodigals and they've left the church, pray. Right? I remember I could still feel my prayers when I was out running around being a knucklehead. I can still feel the prayers of my mama today. I literally, when I gave my life to the Lord, I could go back and say, man, my mama definitely prayed me through that situation, because you know what? I ain't supposed to be here. And so we have to get back to prayer. Prayer is the most important gift that God gave us through his spirit, to be able to have a direct connection to the Holy Spirit and to the kingdom of God. It's better than a text message. It's better than an interview. It's better than a song. It's a direct connection to God, which is what America needs today. Is we just need a heavy dosage of God, family, and freedom.
You speak to a lot of issues. You speak to current events. You even talk about other celebrities that, you know, some people need to be aware of, or be wary of. But also, man, you also speak to masculinity, and nobody can speak to masculinity better than a cowboy. How would you encourage these young fatherless boys that see you and they think, oh my gosh, he's cool, and they hear you talk about masculinity? How would you encourage people in masculinity today?
Well, the first thing that we have to understand is women, children
Mhm.
have to have masculinity. In order for society to function properly, you have to have alphas, right? So if you
Mhm.
look in the animal kingdom and you see a group of gorillas, the way they function is through the alpha. The way the Lion King functioned was through Mufasa, through Simba, right? So just if we go back to just basics, common sense, and we look at the animal kingdom, and then God says, "I gave you dominion over all of the animals," right? Our common sense should say that as men, we need to stand up and fight for our families. We need to stand up and fight for our wives. And women will not be able to function without men who are strong and committed to God and committed to taking care and providing for their families, right? So we have to have masculinity in America. We can't be afraid. We can't have our man buns all poking out and everything like that. Yeah, whatever, it's cool. But cowboy culture is, one of my friends once said to me, he said, Don, being a cowboy is not your belt, your buckle, your hat, or your boots. It's literally what's in your heart. And
Ah,
so whenever I get these men that are all around, like, man, I don't know, man, I ain't no cowboy. I can't wear no cowboy hat. I'm like, man, what's in your heart, brother? If it's in your heart, that's all that matters. You put on that cowboy hat and you lead the next generation, because these young guys, they need a man like you to adopt them. These fatherless men, they need fathers. They need spiritual mentors. They need spiritual fathers. And so for me, where I was able to grow and learn were really conservative white men who poured into me and gave me their resources, put me in the Bible and shared spiritual knowledge with me. And then I was like, whoa, wow, this is what an actual leader of a family looks like. This is what an actual father figure looks like. This is what it looks like to lead your wife and her to trust you that you're going to lead her down the right path, and your children to want to follow that same lineage. And so, because I was able to see that and these men poured into me, now I'm able to pour in and make disciples of other young men. And so, that's what we're supposed to do is, and you know what? You got to pray for it, young guys. If you don't know how to get it, if you don't know where to go, pray, and I promise you, God will provide you a masculine mentor to help you navigate through that.
that's so good, man. And mentors are so needed. You know the story behind Mentor, right?
I do not.
Well, I'll share it because I have a feeling you'll be sharing it too, my man.
All right.
So the Spartan king Odysseus went off to fight the Trojan War, and he had a son named Telemachus, and he left Telemachus under the care of his best friend, and he was gone 20 years. The siege of Troy took 10 years. It took 10 years to get back home. If you know about Homer's Odyssey, but when he returned home, he found a sharp, wise, strong young man, thanks to the tutelage of his best friend, Mentor.
Mm,
That's where we get the word mentor. We all need mentors. I was thinking about this morning. I've done a lot of work with at-risk kids. I was an at-risk kid, you know, and incredible mother. My father had died though, and went to a ghetto school in a rough part of town. But you know what? I don't regret having my friends there. Growing up with my friends,
right.
we celebrated each other. We didn't tolerate each other, and we weren't hurt and so weak. We came together when we needed to come together. And all that to say is God's beautiful tapestry is a wonderful thing. And you're one of those people that encourages that tapestry in unity. But you also speak to the issues of the day. You're modeling masculinity for young men. There's no such thing as toxic masculinity when
Right.
48% of boys don't have a dad,
Right.
and 78% of teachers are women. There's no such thing. We need more masculinity. But you know what? Those are just some of the things you cover on your podcast, Kentucky Dom's America, man. Tell me about that.
Yeah. Before you go into that, we call it Mama. Make America manly again.
There you go. There you go. Come on, mama.
But anyway, yeah, Kentucky Dom's America is a new platform that we created where I'll be able to speak on current events, politics, faith, family, and freedom. I think right now it's very important for us to have everybody has a calling, right? And everybody has a specific group of people that they're supposed to shepherd and lead. And so God had just really put it on my heart that, look, man, I'm reaching over 17 million people a month with my platform. And I can't waste that. I can't waste what God has given me. We're supposed to be good stewards with what God has provided for us. And so I just want to be a good steward. I don't want to just always get on social media and be the guy that's, stirring up the pot, but I also want to be informative and give people kind of a bird's eye view of my life and why I think the way I do. We always talk about, why I think that we should just be called Americans and not have titles like African American or German American
Right.
or whatever, because they're so divisive. And so uh, I went to Haiti, and these kids, man, these Haitian kids, they couldn't break it down when I would tell them that I was African American. It just didn't make sense to them. So they just kept telling me that my mom was from Africa, or my dad was from Africa and my mom was American. And I kept telling them no. And finally, I just got to the point to where it's like, you know what? They're actually right, and I'm actually wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm six, seven generations Kentucky boy. And
Uh-huh.
so why am I calling myself African American if I've
Right.
never ever even been to an African nation?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that's where it just started resonating with me. Is like I got to stop calling myself African American and just be American, right? And that's what Kentucky Dom is all about.
Yeah.
Kentucky Dom's America is all about is we have to get back to common sense. And so I want to use my platform just to teach people how to get back to think with pure common sense. We need to be Einsteins of common sense, and I think that'll help us a lot.
Yeah, my friends back in the day, I'm 56, so we were Gen X, raised on hose water and neglect. My black friends, if I would have called them African American, they would have popped me in the mouth. They would have said, "I'm
Yeah,
black. I'm black and proud, boy. What are you, European American? We're
right,
Americans."
right.
And we need to let this generation know the truth about that. But man, to say that I'm impressed with you or proud of you is an understatement. People need to know how to advertise with you if that's a possibility, with your platform, sponsor your shows or book you, buy your music, buy your merchandise on KentuckyDom.com.
Yes, sir.
What's a good connection point for any of that? For those who say we believe in him, we believe in his message, and our business wants to be associated with someone like that, God, family, and country in that order. And where do they start? What can they do?
Yeah, you could just email info@KentuckyDom.com. Pretty
Yeah.
much that simple. And somebody will reach back out to you. We want to work with patriotic brands. We want to work with patriotic movements. We want to work with, people who are wanting to expand the patriotic message, faith, family, and freedom. And I think right now, just kind of like how you said, I think it's important for especially the Black American who is conservative and has conservative values to be able to have a voice and stand up to know that, there's a group of unity that is coming around in America, and it's black, it's white, it's red, it's all groups, right? Because America is a melting pot of patriots, and now it's time for us to come together and unite and lock arms and fight against this war that we're in.
Well, hey, folks, you see it yourself. You hear it yourself. Get behind Kentucky Dom. Go to KentuckyDom.com. Get the music. Get the merch. Book him to come to your city. You got a business, boy, and you love America and you're patriotic, especially if you're a cowboy or you love that world, which we need more of. You can lock shields with this incredible young man, and it's a pleasure for the first of hopefully many times to get to catch up with you, Kentucky Dom. Thank you.
Brent, thank you so much for having me, brother. It's a blessing to be here with you today. Many prayers over you and what you're doing and what God's doing in your life and your family. And I appreciate you, brother. I definitely look forward to coming back and having this conversation again, my friend.
Yes, sir. Well, that's been another great word on the street. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, sir.